Hey everyone, welcome back to Edu Expert, your smart learning hub. Is the era of American dominance finally ending? For decades, the United States stood as the uncontested leader of the world, military, economic, and cultural. But today, the winds of change are undeniable. China, once considered the world's factory, has transformed into an unstoppable force. Nations that once looked only to Washington are now turning their eyes to Beijing. From Asia to Africa, from Latin America to Europe, alliances are shifting. And now the world asks, has China already become the new global superpower? Over the last 3 decades, China's rise has been nothing short of extraordinary. In the 1980s, its economy was smaller than Italy's. Today, China is the world's second largest economy, and many analysts believe it will surpass the United States within this decade. But economic growth is only one part of the story. What makes China's rise so dramatic is that it coincides with a period of U.S. retreat and division. Under protectionist policies and endless wars, America has alienated old allies. And into this vacuum, Beijing has stepped with money, infrastructure, technology, and a promise: partnership without conditions. At the 2025 Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Tianjin, President Xi Jinping announced plans for a new development bank, major loans, and a global governance system not dominated by the West. Russian President Vladimir Putin immediately backed the idea. Together, they presented a vision of a multipolar world, where no single country dictates the rules. This is a historic shift. Instead of following the United States, more and more countries are finding comfort in China's approach. So which countries are moving closer to China? Russia is the clearest example. After Western sanctions and the Ukraine war, Moscow has become Beijing's closest strategic partner. Russia supplies energy, China supplies technology and trade. Their partnership now extends to defense, banking, and global diplomacy. Iran too has turned firmly toward China. Long isolated by the US, Iran sees Beijing as a lifeline. With oil deals, military cooperation, and Belt and Road investments, Tehran has strengthened its alliance with China. North Korea is another obvious partner. Kim Jong-un appeared in Beijing for military celebrations, standing shoulder to shoulder with Xi Jinping. Pyongyang depends on China for food, trade, and political survival. Pakistan, once a key US ally, today calls China its iron brother. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, water port, and military cooperation have made this one of Beijing's strongest friendships. In Southeast Asia, countries like Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar, once courted by Washington, are now pulled toward China, especially after US tariffs and reduced aid. Thailand and Malaysia try to balance, but their economic future is increasingly tied to Beijing. Across Africa, Chinese loans, railways, and mining projects have replaced Western aid. Nations such as Kenya, Ethiopia, Nigeria, and South Africa now see China not just as a partner, but as their primary development engine. Latin America has witnessed a shocking transformation. Brazil, once a strong partner of Washington, is now doing record trade with China. Venezuela and Cuba openly rely on Beijing. Argentina has even begun using the Chinese yuan for trade instead of the dollar. In the Pacific Islands, the US once dominated. But today, countries like Fiji, Solomon Islands, Kiribati, and Papua New Guinea are building closer ties with Beijing, which promises climate aid, ports, and infrastructure. The Middle East is another region where China is gaining influence. Even US allies such as Saudi Arabia and the UAE are hedging their bets, signing oil and technology deals with Beijing. The reasons why nations are choosing China are clear. First, China does not attach political conditions. While US aid often comes with lectures on democracy and human rights, China offers roads, ports, and power plants with no strings attached. Second, economic dependence is unavoidable. China is now the largest trading partner for more than 120 countries. Simply put, you cannot ignore Beijing if you want to grow. Third, China offers the promise of a multipolar world. It does not demand, follow us or else. Instead, it sells the dream of balance, where smaller nations have more voice. But this rise also has a darker side. Analysts warn of an emerging axis of upheaval: China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea, united by their opposition to the West. In 2025, Beijing hosted a military parade where leaders from these countries stood proudly, sending a clear message: the balance of power has shifted. China's superpower status rests on four powerful pillars. The first is its economy, now on track to surpass the US. The Belt and Road Initiative stretches from Asia to Africa to Europe, building highways, ports, and railroads. The second is technology. From artificial intelligence to 5G to green energy, China is closing the innovation gap. In some fields, like electric vehicles and batteries, it already leads the world. The third pillar is the military. China's navy is now the largest in the world by numbers. Hypersonic missiles, a modern air force, and an expanding space program add to its arsenal. And the fourth is diplomacy. China presents itself as the champion of the global South. For many nations, this message resonates more than the promises of Washington. At the same time, America's grip is weakening. Endless tariffs and trade wars have hurt allies like Japan, Germany, and India. In the Pacific, U.S. influence is fading as China offers aid and investment. Dollar dominance is under threat, as more nations, like Argentina and Brazil, shift to using the yuan. Most importantly, public opinion is changing. In countries like France, more people now see China as the leading economic power, not the United States. The future world order is becoming clear. We are moving toward a multipolar world. The age of one dominant superpower is over. The United States still has unmatched military reach, but China is building something different: influence through trade, infrastructure, and technology. And as more countries pivot to Beijing, the question is no longer if China will become a superpower, it already is. The world is changing before our eyes. Alliances are shifting, superpowers are colliding, and the story of our century is being written right now. So we ask you, do you believe China has already overtaken the United States as the world's new superpower, or can America fight back and reclaim its dominance? Share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe for more global analysis, and stay tuned, because the future of our world is unfolding in this very moment.